What's up, everyone? This weekend was a crazy one, to say the least, and the stock market was already heating up a big time before the assassination attempt this weekend, but that is only going to add more fuel to the already existing fire. The stock market has earnings season back in action. We're seeing a pretty interesting Mag 7 rotation that we haven't seen in quite a while. July seasonality is at an interesting turning point, and as we all know, we have election season getting closer and closer and closer. So we have a lot to talk about today, so Tom, let's not waste any time and let's get right into it.
Yeah, and on Friday, it looks like 80% of stocks were actually up in the green, which was a good sign. I know that Friday was a pretty good recovery day for the market. If we actually go to the SPY, you can see that on Thursday, there was a pretty big pullback. And on Friday, we actually ran up and posted new all-time highs. I don't think that after the pullback on Thursday, anybody expected that huge recovery like that, but 80% of stocks were in the green with that recovery move, so that was a good sign to see for the market. But Mike, I don't think anybody right now really cares about the overall stock market, right? I've been seeing so many people mentioning the ticker DJT, obviously, with the possible Trump assassination, and this is actually a really crazy event, and I can't believe it happened, right? It's a pretty rare thing throughout history. There's been a few of those, obviously, in the past, and Trump barely missed out here, you know? So viewer discretion will be advised a little bit here, as there's a couple photos, but, you know, Trump got grazed by a bullet, and as we all know, it's not going to be like... It's going to be a little bit of a weird election cycle now. I know a lot of people are watching DJT stock, and people are kind of contemplating like, hey, now Trump and Biden are just going to stay hidden because, you know, obviously there's too much threat out there. So I don't know, Mike, this is going to be a weird election cycle now for the next few months. And hopefully this isn't just the beginning, right? Hopefully there's nothing else like this that goes on.
There's one major word for the stock market with this, Tom, and that is volatility. Volatility is going to be crazy this year for multiple reasons, but as this event first order effects, you can say, will be ticker symbol DJT tomorrow. So for those of you who don't know, DJT is Truth Social, and as I'm sure many of you have already mentioned or seen someone say this, there's many traders out there right now that are looking to buy DJT, and especially after an event like we saw this weekend, that only like further like intensifies that sort of those sort of buying flows, you can say. So keep a close eye on this stock for the week. Whether you're bullish or bearish, it doesn't really matter, but that's where a lot of attention and money will be flowing over these next couple days due to the event that just happened. But another interesting thing that I saw this weekend was, as soon as like the assassination attempt happened, guess what popped up? Bitcoin. And I thought that was very interesting because it shows, like, in a time where, you know, people might be making some, it was an important event, to say the least, right? So it's like when you see Bitcoin move to the upside in a somewhat decent way off of that event, it does show that in times of uncertainty and, you know, possible fear, people are actively resorting to Bitcoin, which again, I think says a lot, especially at this point in time. And, you know, Bitcoin's over 60K per coin right now too.
Yeah, it definitely is. And if we look at it on like a daily chart here, it's starting to bounce off that like 55 to 60K support. You know, like you said, it's back above 60K now, which is a really good sign. I know a lot of people were worried when it broke under that, but, you know, it's looking like it's pushing higher, and there's a lot of contemplation that, you know, maybe even this week, a lot of metals could start popping off too. I know people are looking at gold and silver very closely, and we started to see, you know, some of these big money plays on silver recently, which could get more intensified here in the short term if we do start to see these pop. So definitely watch gold and silver as well. I think that we could start to see people maybe resort to these in a time of I'm not going to say like crisis, right? You know, but in this very strange time, right? So it's definitely an interesting topic though, Mike. You know, I know a lot of people out there are going to have comments about that. Try to keep it as clean as you can in the comment section, right? We're going to have one hell of a job looking at those tonight.
But I think it'll be very important, especially like over these next next couple trading days to closely observe not only Bitcoin, but also gold and silver, because if we do see, those asset classes move to the upside in a major way, that will actively show like there's big money moving into positions that would, protect them in a scenario of increased fear and uncertainty and just unknown events and volatility. So that'll be like one of the most important things I'll be watching over this week. And I'm also curious to see what the flows look like on the heat map going through this next upcoming week. We could see last week, especially on Thursday, it was pretty pronounced how a lot of money started to flow out of, you could say, some of these big tech stocks and into other areas of the market. Like we showcased on Thursday. Thursday was a day where Mag 7 stocks had one of their worst days in a long time relative to other areas of the market, like small cap stocks like IWM in the Russell 2000. Tom, when is the last time we saw the Russell 2000 surge to the upside on a day where Mag 7 stocks like Nvidia, Tesla, and a handful of other ones are down like a decent amount?
Yeah, it's been quite a while, and I know that looking at Nvidia in the short term and a lot of these Mag 7 stocks, there's definitely a lot of fear out there in the short term, and a lot of these stocks didn't even get that full recovery. I know that on Friday, everybody was so happy because the SPY actually recovered back up, but, if we actually go to the overall heat map, I mean, there was a lot of mixture across the whole market, right? Google and Microsoft actually closed down on Friday. Netflix as well. Some of the banks were pretty mixed. We saw a lot of negativity there with some of those earnings, right? Wells Fargo and etc. We did have some tech stocks recover like Nvidia and Apple a little bit, but then again, like the recovery, wasn't totally, it wasn't a full recovery, right? Apple almost got there, but, going back to Nvidia, it actually stayed fairly low. So I'm still going to watch these stocks very closely this week. I don't think it's necessarily over. And I think that this could actually start to put some more pressure on the VIX, right? If we see these tech stocks continue to fall, a lot of people are thinking, at least from what I've seen, on Discord and etc., that we might see volatility pick up from this Trump situation. So, we're looking at VIX down around support, and I know that we've looked at the VIX seasonality chart a lot lately, Mike, and I don't know. It seems like we're right on the end where volatility starts to pick up, right as all these events start to happen. It's a pretty weird time.
Yeah, it's getting exciting. There is no doubt about that. And for those of you out there who don't know what the VIX is, basically the higher VIX goes, the more crazy the market gets from a volatility standpoint. And most of the time, when the VIX goes up, the market goes down. We can see by looking at the seasonality chart, the red line is VIX from this year, and the gray lines are what VIX historically does around that time. You could see that this is like that time of the year where things start to get pretty exciting, historically speaking. And then on top of that, as we've showcased countless times over the past 2 weeks, the first half of July is one of the strongest times of the entire year, but we're now to that point where it's going to be like, okay, you could say the 15th of July, and that is around that time of the month where the market actually starts to cool off a little bit after its historical period of strength. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So, and then Tom, this is also happening as earnings season is about to significantly ramp up over these next couple days.
Yeah, earnings is getting huge. We actually saw the banks report last week. There was actually a lot of negativity there from what I saw. And this week, we're going to have more banks early Monday morning. We'll have Goldman Sachs and BlackRock are going to be reporting. Those are pretty big. Tuesday, we got Bank of America, United Healthcare, Progressive, Morgan Stanley, Charles Schwab. Everybody's been hating on them lately with all the Thinkorswim problems. But nonetheless, Thursday's my favorite day, Mike. We have TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductors, and then also Netflix right there Thursday as well. So there's a lot reporting, though, this week. It's almost hard to name them all, but Taiwan Semiconductors and Netflix will be the two big ones.
Yeah, Tom, I am so excited for these next couple trading days and even the next couple of weeks because there's just so much on the schedule, and I think it's going to be a very crazy, very exciting, very opportunity-filled next couple months for multiple reasons. But good stuff all around there. And then, Tom, we also can't forget about the earnings or the economic schedule for the week.
Yeah, and first things first, we actually have Jerome Powell speaking on Monday with David M. Rubenstein. It's going to be a pretty interesting conversation there. He's the chairman of the Economic Club of Washington, D.C. It's going to be at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, so be ready for that. It might not be the biggest event. Even Powell's testimonies last week, they didn't really cause too much, market-wide price action or anything like that, in my opinion. So definitely have this on watch, but it might not be the biggest event ever. It's not an FOMC event or anything like that. But getting into everything else for the week, we do have retail sales coming out Tuesday, 1 hour before the market opens, building permits Wednesday. We do have some Fed speakers here mixed in as well. And then Thursday, we got the initial jobless claims. So that's pretty much the rundown for the week. There's really not too much besides Powell and then the retail sales there.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's get right into some setups and predictions then. A stock I'm watching very closely right now is XME. This is a big money play that we talked about the other week, and it has been moving in a very consistent and good way overall. Looking at XME, it has been continuously trending higher. We talked about this big money play on July 8th. It's like an $8.5 million call trade. Again, the price action has been great. It's an ETF that follows metals and mining companies. I think there's a decent shot that especially metals, can continue to march higher for multiple reasons. Not only you could say the rate cut cycle, but also these potential recent events invoking more investors to resort to, I guess you could say, safer assets like gold and silver. As gold and silver move higher, that would also help companies that mine gold, silver, and other metals. So regardless, XME is definitely on my radar to the upside going forward. This can be a play for tomorrow, but also a play for like the next couple of days and weeks.
Yeah, it looks pretty good in the short term. We're starting to see it really break back out, and I really love this big money play. They entered pretty low here on this dip and that little pullback that was going on, and we saw a really nice shoot out of that little range. It was stuck in there. So very nice by XME. Looks like the demand has been picking up in the short term. With my first play, I'm looking at Amazon here, and Amazon had a pretty big rejection this week at the key $200 level, and we were actually watching this one quite a bit last week. I know I mentioned it a few times on the videos, and you can see it was in like a bit of a bit of a range there, right? You can see that channel kind of lining up there, and it ended up tanking off that $200 resistance and falling lower. So I'm really watching for another push down this week with Amazon. I don't like the way on Friday it didn't even recover back up really. A lot of these stocks came right back up, but Amazon was one that got kind of stuck down in the dump. So if it re-breaks under like 193.50, I'll be watching it down. And as we can see on the book map, I mean, that $200 resistance and even like 198 and 197 above the current price are going to be huge. So I don't think that we'll be seeing $200 break this week unless there's like a crazy turnaround here.
Yeah. All right. Well, great stuff there. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is SMH. This is basically an ETF of semiconductor stocks. And this thing has been a powerhouse over the past year. But I think the risk-to-reward skew is shifting more to the bear side now, as the stock has some pretty strong resistance overhead, especially around that like $280 area. But I think that the flows are getting a lot less euphoric with some of these chip stocks. And I think Thursday's price action is a great example of that. On top of that, I think there might be a handful of investors and just percentage of the money out there right now that is not willing to take like excess risk going throughout the rest of the year for multiple reasons compared to maybe their thought process in the first half of the year. But regardless, SMH is on my radar to the downside in the short term. Looking at it, in the worst case scenario, a stop loss can be put around that $280 area where like a profit target can go all the way down to $255 or maybe even $250. And keep in mind the stock right now is still only at like $274.50. So I think that makes for a pretty good risk reward in the short term.
Yeah, it really does. Looking at it in the short term, I like that risk reward. 280 is definitely going to be a solid resistance there on this one. And looking at those chip stocks from Friday, I mean, they were up a little bit, like Nvidia was in the green, but again, they weren't seeing like those full-on recoveries like we've been seeing. Now, some did, like SMCI, but we'll have to be watching this very closely. I'm sure that there will be some profit takers coming in soon, and I honestly think that this whole Trump situation might stir up the volatility a lot in the short term, so be ready. But with my next play, I'm looking at Square, looking at 3.38% to the upside on Friday. I'm going to go ahead and look for a break above $69.80 here and $70 to the upside. If we get a good break, I'll keep watching it up, but Square's been a pretty good one in the short term. It's been down a lot over the past couple of years, but it's been consolidating and just kind of chopping around lately and starting to come up very well off this recent dip. So I'll keep watching Square to the upside above $70.
All right, sounds good. Well, it's now about that time for today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have WFC to the downside.
Yeah, so Wells Fargo had a pretty bad move on Friday, and looking at them this week, I'm going to look for a move below 55.60. If they break under there, then go ahead and look at them to the downside for an earnings continuation play.
All right, with the next one, we have Enphase to the upside.
Yeah, so Enphase is a stock that saw a lot of good inflows last week. Again, we might be seeing some rotation into some of these stocks, kind of like Enphase. Looking at them in the short term, they're right around 120, so if they break that, watch them up.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Tesla for both directions.
Yeah, Tesla's pretty wild last week. They had that good move Friday. They didn't totally recover up from that drop Thursday, though, either. If they're able to break the high of day Friday around 252, then watch them to the upside, but they're straddling 250. So if they fall back under 246, then also watch them back down.
All right, so we have that downside level for a potential move lower. We have the upside level for a potential move higher. Don't forget about the levels on Enphase and WFC as well. But these three stocks are on watch for potential momentum plays tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We are looking for strong and consistent price action, and we're looking for continuations in the directions Tom listed. Basically, if the stocks do not break the levels listed, do not feel the need to force a mediocre setup. However, if they do break the levels listed and they move in a strong, powerful, consistent way, look at the stock for a potential short-term momentum-driven move. But either way, those are today's momentum plays, and it is now about that time to get right into today's $2.4 million big money trade, and we are looking at ticker symbol PYPL or PayPal, and the big money on Friday put $2.4 million into the 55 strike call options that expire on September 20th of 2024. PayPal is one of those stocks out there that has been kind of stuck in the mud over like the past couple of years, and in the short term it's starting to definitely see some light, which is a good thing. On top of that, SQ, which is a company somewhat similar to PayPal, they have been seeing some good upside price action in the short term, which definitely helps the PayPal case. But I think we're starting to just see like a broader rotation into stocks in areas of the market that have been lagging behind other areas of the market. And stocks like PayPal definitely fit into that group of stocks that, again, just got kind of like left behind this recent mega uptrend. So I think this is an interesting setup, and I think it says a lot how the big money is, opening a $2.4 million position here, especially with calls that are already in the money.
Yeah, and I'm loving these current setups in the short term with stocks like PayPal, Square, Enphase, etc. We're seeing a lot of good inflows into these other into these stocks that haven't seen those good moves this year, like you mentioned. PayPal's been kind of stuck in the mud. It's good to see him bouncing off this like 57 to 58 support, and it's even forming a bit of like an inverse head and shoulders down here, which is looking pretty good in the short term as well. So I'm definitely going to keep watching PayPal very closely. I love the support. The risk reward lines up pretty well, and in the short term here, I would love to see a bigger extension towards like $62 and then $63 maybe over the next week or 2 weeks. So I'm definitely going to like this play a lot, Mike. It expires in September, so it can be a nice like swing play for a few weeks here.
For sure, and as we always say with the big money trades, this option has all the way out until like the end of September. So, you have to keep that in mind. Like, this isn't necessarily the big money hoping that PayPal goes up tomorrow. The big money who's getting into this is doing it with the, understanding that this trade will last multiple months. So definitely keep that in mind. But as we look at the market right now, we know it is crazy, it's volatile, and there's just a lot of stuff going on that is is just, crazier than what we normally see in multiple different ways. So the most important thing going forward is going to be willing to adapt and adjust to what happens not only in the market, but just, with everything going on in just the economy and everything right now. It's going to be so important to adapt and change with the market as it changes. Good traders make money in both directions. So just make sure you're willing to adapt because this year has been so positive and euphoric for the market. Some people like to get attached to the idea that the market always has to go up, and the market can continue to go up. Just understand that you should have that mindset that is willing to adapt. Tom, as we look at the SPY right now, I think it also says quite a bit. That sell-off that we saw on SPY right before close on Friday, that directly shows that some investors are not willing to hold over the weekend in a market like this. That was a relatively, decent sized selling move for a Friday. So I thought that was worth paying attention to.
Yeah, that was a pretty big sell-off there on Friday, and it was right back down to that key 560 level. It actually closed a little bit under there with that after-hours move, so I'm watching that very closely this week. That high around 563.50 is going to be very important to watch for. You could tell that that's right where that rejection started happening. I think that's where a lot of people were taking profits here in the short term, so keep watching that resistance. 560 is a good middle ground to watch here in the short term, and I'm actually watching some of these supports from last week. First up, 558. Pretty good, and then down under there I like 556.80 and then 556. So those are the levels I'm watching for tomorrow, Mike. If the SPY drops, I would think that 556 would be a pretty big area of support down here, so keep those on watch for the SPY this week. And hey, don't forget that Powell does speak tomorrow morning too. Don't forget that could cause some volatility around 12:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Awesome. And if you guys are new to the channel, consider smashing that subscribe button. It takes us hours to do these videos, and we cover everything you have to know about the market. We cover big money plays, setups for the next day, and basically everything you need to know as a short-term trader. And before we close out, we want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, HK Merck in the StockedUp Discord. They had a phenomenal post where they said, first week under my belt, thank you for the videos, the Discord community, and the invaluable information from the trading floor. The premium membership was a good investment, and they just crushed it. So awesome job there, and keep up the great work going forward. If you guys are into short-term trading and you want in on the StockedUp trading floor, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below. We have a bunch of great technology you won't find anywhere else, a lot of great information, education, and a phenomenal community just for multiple reasons, whether in terms of trading or just surrounding yourself with a positive, like-minded community. The trading floor is the place to be. Again, it'll be that first link in the description and the comments down below. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's have an amazing week in the market.